As professional speakers, many of us are working remotely, and remote work was supposed to give us freedom. Instead, many of us feel distracted, drained, and quietly frustrated that we're busy all day but rarely finishing the work that actually matters. In this episode, you're going to learn how to work with more focus, less friction, and far more intention without burning yourself out or turning your life into a productivity bootcamp. My guest today is Steven Puri, a former film executive, technologist, and founder of Suka, a platform helping people do deep, meaningful work in a world designed to steal their attention. Steven has worked in Hollywood, tech, and high-performance creative environments, so he understands how focus, flow, and leadership actually work when the pressure is real. We talk about why remote work often fails, how distraction is engineered, how to protect your attention, and why doing less can sometimes move your life forward faster. If you want to do meaningful work without losing yourself in the noise, this one is for you.
Welcome to Present Influence, the show for speakers, coaches, and expert business owners who care about communicating with integrity, not fakery. You want to stand out without selling out, connect authentically, and influence without the ick. I'm John Ball, keynote coach and professional speaker, here to help you cut the fluff, sharpen your message, and show up with confidence, clarity, and real charisma. You can expect smart conversations, honest insights, and some laughs along the way, because if you're not enjoying it, why are you doing it?
Steven Puri, welcome to Present Influence.
Oh boy, I hope this is an engaging and possibly helpful episode.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be, and I can't wait to dive into the topic of remote work because for myself and pretty much all of my listeners, maybe not all, but the vast majority of listeners to this show are working remotely. So this is going to be a great topic. Before we really dive in, was there something about this topic that maybe is a little different or counter to what most people might have heard that you teach or that you hold by when it comes to remote work?
I believe strongly that most of the tension in that tug of war around return to office, you must be under these fluorescent lights with me, or, hey man, I trust you to work remotely, that is really around hiring. It is not about surveillance. It's not about how do you check in? Do you do stand-ups? How many TPS reports do you file a week? It is fundamentally a hiring win or a hiring problem.
Remote work or working by yourself, even as an entrepreneur, is challenging enough in itself, especially if, like myself, you came from a background where you were working for a company or for other people.
Yeah.
Your background is definitely more sort of corporate entertainment business. You working remotely in that environment, or is this something that you moved more into when you moved out of there?
Okay, so what our esteemed host is alluding to is I worked in film, in motion pictures for a number of years, and to some extent television, but mainly film. And here's the thing that most people don't understand about film. Film has had remote work for 100 years. It's not called that. Every film naturally goes through a lifespan of remote work. It's, writers working from their homes, writing partner's living room, going to coffee shops, and hopefully one of those ideas gets some traction, gets a little money. Then you open a small production office where a couple days a week you have meetings with, costumers. Hey, what are they going to wear? Location scouts. Where can we shoot this? Oh, there are tax incentives, in UK right now. And then the rest of the week, everyone goes off and does their work. The costumer goes to costume houses. The location scout goes to Montana, whatever. Then it is RTO. It is your on set day and night together for months on end. And then it goes back to picture editors and sound editors working. You come in and out, and at the end, it's remote again. So you would never in film say, Steven, I see you're in the remote period of your film. I would look askance at you. John, what are you talking about? But if you were to say to me, oh, you're in development, I'd say, yes, we are. Oh, you're in pre-production. You're in prep. Yes. Oh, you're in post-production. Absolutely. Oh, you're in photography. Yes. And that is the code for, oh, you're in remote period, you're in hybrid period, you're in, RTO. And the interesting thing about film, and this is one of the lessons I kind of bring over to this modern world, is for film, it is established how leaders lead through each of those periods and how individual contributors contribute because you've been doing it for years. For a lot of the world, it was a shock to the system in the pandemic of my God, we can't be together. And Zoom is a verb. And, like a lot of scary things happened. But that is one of the interesting things I saw is there are ways to manage that well. And a lot of it comes down to hiring properly.
Well, that's good to understand. Although many of listeners to this show are going to be working for themselves, maybe having some contract work in addition to that. I know I certainly have bits and pieces here and there, but I had no idea that the film world was kind of. I guess it makes sense as you explained that things were more remote in terms of how you worked there. Why did you move into focusing on this as a way of helping other people? Sounds like you had years of experience with doing this. So where did you recognize that there was things that you could help other people work more effectively with their working remotely themselves?
I'll be very blunt with you. My life has been a series of Forrest Gump-like happy accidents that have fallen into my lap, right? So let us not discount the amount of luck in my career path. How I got into film as an engineer was film was becoming digital. And I happened to bridge that gap between creative speak and engineering speak. So my career took off, and it was a great way to meet a lot of top list directors. Then when I decided to get back into engineering, I was working on a startup. A good buddy of mine, who was an engineer at Groupon, had asked me to co-found a company with him. And he wanted to do like a mindful to-do list. And I said, honestly, I don't have some secret sauce. Like that doesn't light me up. But I'll help you. I love you and I will help you get that going, but it's not like singing my song. And in the course of doing that, as life sometimes does, I became very interested in all of the mental tips and techniques that I had learned in film and how applicable they were in the modern world outside film, especially like in tech. So I run a community now for remote workers that helps them get into a flow state, helps them do like concentrated, as Cal Newport would say, deep work. And most of the community, they are designers, they're writers, they're engineers, they're people of knowledge, work to do, and they want to do it in a more concentrated, healthy way. So that's kind of that transition, which happened very organically and randomly.
No, I love that you said about how much luck was involved. Because I was actually having a conversation with one of my private clients earlier today about exactly that, about how many people who do kind of make or have various successes who underplay the element of luck in that. It's like, no, I did it all by myself. It's like, yeah, but there's always some luck involved, right? It's like being in the right place at the right time with the right people, all that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. And you see it in the micro, you see it in our lives, and you see it in the macro. For example, like there were other ideas like Uber, like Airbnb that had been floated 3, 5, 7 years earlier, and they didn't have the luck that Airbnb and Uber did, which is they were launching in a recession. So suddenly that proposition of like, you want someone to ride around the back of my car for money, but turned into, well, how much do you pay me? I'm out of work. You want someone to sleep on my sofa? How much would they pay? Had they launched 3 years later, 3 years earlier, they wouldn't have had those macroeconomic tailwinds. So there's luck on every level of that scale.
I do think it's important to acknowledge that, and so it's not, well, I think luck to a degree is something we create for ourselves. I think we probably sometimes need to get over ourselves a bit, like, oh no, I did it all by myself. Sometimes the stars aligned, sometimes things just worked out and you got lucky. Let me ask you though, for yourself and for people who are in your community, what are the kinds of things that come up as challenges for working remotely?
Well, you're speaking to my heart now. So you're going to get a little bit of the soapbox. I'm going to climb up on the soapbox and I'll be back in a minute, right?
Go for it, Steven.
Laura, wifey, and I both having, lived in SF, lived in Los Angeles, have a bunch of friends that work in tech, either work right now or have worked at one of the Facebook, the Meta companies, Twitter and TikTok. And so when you're working from home, yes, there are the obvious daily distractions like, oh, I could throw in a load of laundry right now. I could do the dishes. The dog needs to be played with, whatever. Like there are those things where you can procrastinate by saying like, well, I'll just get this done, when in reality you're putting off like the thing that you need to do, right? And when you couple that with the digital distractions where, 10 years ago, these trillion-dollar companies kind of obfuscated their business model. And now they're straight up. They're like, our business model is steal your life. And we're very good at it. They have the money to pay the best behavioral economists and behavioral psychologists, put them on staff, the best engineers, the best designers. And they used to go in front of Congress and be like, oh, haha, we just connect grandmothers with photos of their grandkids. And, now they're straight up in their quarterly filings going, this is how much of everyone's life we stole this quarter. We're going to employ these techniques to steal more next quarter. And it's amazing when you think about that conversation. If Mark Zuckerberg were to call you up and go, John, I'd really like your life. I'm going to sell it to these advertisers and I will keep the money, but I'm going to give you some dancing cat videos, buddy. It sounds ludicrous, right? But that
It's a
is
deal. I love dancing cat videos.
Exactly. So how many do I get? Are they calico? I love calico, right? So that sounds so ridiculous at that level. But when you couple it with the fact that every single notification sound, every rounded corner on a button, and every color chosen has been A/B tested extensively to make sure it is the most attractive for you to get on that slide. And once you're on that slide, TikTok don't want to let you out. That Threads is going to keep finding the way, and YouTube is going to have a recommender engine where it goes, oh, watch one more. John, we know you love videos about, golf, whatever. Do you want to see like Tiger Woods' greatest hits? Or we love you love cooking videos. Here's like today's hottest thing. So when you ask, what are the challenges? I'll tell you this. I run a community of people who work remotely. And I talk to so many of them every week about, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And I'll tell you, I am not immune to it. I am like, right here. I am as susceptible to these problems. And for me, they manifested as one, in the morning, I would be like, oh, John, tomorrow at 9, I'm going to get going on whatever. And at 9:15, I'd still be like checking emails. 9:30, I'd still be like scrolling through the news, sort of thing. And the effect of my procrastination in the morning would show up at the end of the day where I'm like, I didn't get stuff done. I really needed to write that one blog post. I didn't get it quite done. And that cold start thing is a lot about being overwhelmed, saying like, I don't know how to get through all the stuff I have to do today, or I haven't prioritized, that sort of thing. And then during the day, getting in, picking up my phone, like hitting something, I'd be coding or I'd be writing a blog post. And I'd have that moment where it's kind of hard, like maybe the build was failing, or I read the first paragraph. I'm like, this sucks. Like the muses are not singing today. And, you're trained to get the dopamine right out of your phone. With Suka, the platform we created, I just hit play in the morning and it shows me a QR code and I shoot at my phone. I put my phone down, and if I pick up my phone, my smart assistant, my computer, like my little AI assistant, says, hey, Steven, do you need to be on your phone right now? Is that helping you? And it's just like those little things that allow you to say, okay, who do I want to be? Do I want to be the guy who's done early and feels great? Or do I want to be the guy who's like, oh, Laura, okay, after dinner, I've got to get back to work because I didn't finish stuff. And I hate being that guy. Have you ever, what distracts you, John?
Where do I even begin?
Podcast guests, they distract me.
So many things. I do definitely get distracted by WhatsApp to the point where I mostly have to mute group chats.
Right? Well, yeah.
I tend to put I have my phone on silent, no vibrate or anything, because it's the only way I don't keep checking my phone throughout the day. And in periods of deep work, it goes down flat. But I know that I am the kind of person, I'll go on YouTube. I'm going to LinkedIn as an example, but I'll go on LinkedIn. I'm going to post something. I need to check something from somebody's profile or something like that. And before I know it, I'm scrolling through the news feed. Oh, what did I even come here for? And have to go back through the whole mental process. But it could just as easily happen with YouTube, especially like YouTube shorts are the worst. They're absolutely, I love them, but it's mostly junk, and it just keeps you caught in that loop. So I'm pretty good at pulling back from these things, but there's still work. I could be better. Definitely.
100% agree with you. And the fact that in studying how to keep people in the feed, the designers looked at casino gambling and looked at the theory of like variable rewards, where they realized that if they served you in your LinkedIn feed, your YouTube, whatever it is, if they served you good content and then good content and good content, it's actually less addictive than if they put in some content they knew you wouldn't like, because the variation of the quality makes you more excited to scroll and see what's the next thing. What's the next thing? And that was fascinating. When I learned about that, I was like, that is fascinating to say they know what you want, but they mix in things you don't. So you get the high and the low, you get the roller coaster emotion, and it releases more dopamine. That's
Scary.
criminal. So yes, there are a lot of things. I think you and I talked about this when we were talking about before. I'm having a son in 6 weeks and a day, right?
Amazing.
And I
Congratulations.
pray that his generation looks at our generation with social media the way I look at my dad's generation with smoking,
Right.
where I'm like, Dad, 3 of your friends died of lung cancer. You have emphysema. How could you do this to yourself? And Dad's like, the movie stars were doing it. You don't understand. It was a different time. The Marlboro Man was cool, and tobacco companies were putting out studies how healthy tobacco was. And he's like, we didn't know. And I really hope my kids look at our generation and go, how did you waste your life scrolling and double tapping? Like, what did you get done? You're watching Kim Kardashian, sell her underwear line as if it's content. And you're watching videos on plane aviation that has no effect on your life, but you just kept scrolling. And we're like, I know it sounds terrible. And we didn't do as much as we could have, but man, those Skims videos were great. Kim Kardashian's just amazing.
I'll tell you something, and this is kind of a sidebar, but it's not. One of the worst times for me is when I'm most tired, which is late at night.
Yep.
And so
Totally with you.
yeah, so I might be by myself and I'll just put a few I'm not going to watch anything for long, a few YouTube videos, maybe a few shorts and stuff like that. And sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes we just get into that loop of it. And then before you know it, it's 12:30, 1 o'clock. And, I'm getting up at 7 and I'm not going to get enough, not going to get enough sleep. I know I'm getting better at just stopping that because that affects me into the next day.
How do you enforce that discipline? How do you find the willpower to do that?
It's weird. It's just having things that are programmed to I guess, trigger points, cues, if you like. So I have the lights. We have programmable lights at home. So I have them programmed to go off at a particular time. And that's my cue to, all right, it's bedtime. Let's shut everything down and go to bed. So it's not hard enforced, but it's really kind of what you were saying with your assistant that comes up and says that. And I've used browser guards before as well to help.
Which are great, right? Freedom makes a really good one. And yeah.
It doesn't block you, but it adds a bit of friction. And I think anything that adds a bit of, brings you into conscious awareness and doesn't just allow you to keep rolling through on automatic probably helps. And so it's those moments of all right, something clicks, conscious awareness kicks in. I can make a different decision. Not 100% of the time, but more often. I would like it to be more, and I work on it being more because I know I feel better rested and I feel better focused.
John, I agree with you. The way, when we were designing Suga, the way I thought of it was, if I had my best friend sitting next to me during the day, what would they say? And when I did reach for my phone in the middle of coding something just because it got hard and my build was failing, my friend would be like, oh, come on, man, don't pick up your phone because if you don't, we'll get this done sooner and we can go to dinner or something. It would just be that friend being like, do you really need to do that? And you're like, you know what, no, I don't need to, And what you said about, the nudge, as opposed to a block, it's like a nudge, that sense, when we were writing back up. We offer a free Chrome extension. Anyone can use it, right? And you can choose, we give you about 20 websites that are obvious time wasters when you're working, right? You can toggle them on and off, but most people leave them on. And some people add more. I know in football season here, people add NFL.com and ESPN.com. They're like, please keep me off these during the day. And all it is when you open that, if it's open more than 5 seconds, if you're scrolling through browser tabs, it's fine. You opened it and you moved on trying to find your tab. But if you have it open more than 5 seconds, you just get a little pop-up that goes, is this helping you? And then you get to choose, who do I want to be? Because I think it comes down to intention. And this is a word you mentioned before when we were talking off camera, before we could get our microphones working. That sense of, if you're operating from intention, life is different. There's a thesis that I have, a fundamental belief I have, which is why I'm so passionate about, the community of remote workers we have, the focus tool and all that, is I believe that we all have something great inside us. And the question of this lifetime is, are you going to get it out or not? As we talked about, there are a lot of really smart people, very wealthy people, who are pulling on that rope and that tug of war for your life to make sure you don't. They're very comfortable with you ending up 80 years old on the sofa scrolling and double tapping. And then when you have that moment during the day of like, what's my intention? Like, what is it I think I can be? If you stick to that, if you keep your eye on the prize, maybe you get that out. Maybe you don't die with that inside you, which I think is criminal. It's a
Yeah,
tragedy.
definitely. Let me ask you this, because I don't think this is exclusive to speakers and coaches and expert business owners, but it is certainly very relevant,
Sure.
which is that one of the ways that I think I myself and many people who I work with do find ourselves kind of procrastinating is a kind of active procrastination. Like we sometimes will fall into, like, we'll just be creating content or creating stuff, but not doing enough of the things that move the needle. And I wonder if that's
Right.
something that
Well put.
comes up with people you work with, and
Yeah.
if you have some thoughts around how to combat that.
Okay. So yes, I've thought about this. And let me mention that if there's anything intelligent that I say in the course of our conversation, I want to credit the fact that really smart people have come before and have done deep research. I just happen to have read a lot of that and I can regurgitate it in very hopefully comprehensible ways. Okay. So I want to be very respectful of those who have come before. So this idea of intention for millennia, people have talked about understanding your intentions, setting your day off on the right foot, sort of thing, right? Now, definitely now there's this proliferation of to-do lists, task managers, capture the 17 things you can do today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which then creates the problem of, as you said, well, which of the 17 do I start with, right? Because it's really easy to go, it's really fun to create this content. I'll create some videos. And did they move the needle? Was that the thing that at the end of the day changed your life or changed the world around you? Maybe not, but you can be busy. I got a lot done today, but I didn't do the thing. So here's an example of applying that technique where many people, even, the Mark Twain quote about eat the frog, where he was, sort of saying like, begin with the thing you don't want to do, the big thing, because then the data gets easier from there, right? And people have said, if you have more than 3 things you think you're going to do today, you're fooling yourself, right?
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
we did is this, and this speaks to, again, my fallibility is I noticed that when I would start the day, part of why I would procrastinate is there would be the 17 things, like, your example of like, well, I could create some content. I could do this. I do need to sort of do this, right? But the 3 things that really would move me or my company forward, they were clear to me, but they were lost in the forest, So what we did is when you start work in Suka, you can choose the 3 things that are actually the most important. And as soon as you hit play and like the focus music begins and your smart assistant welcomes all that, we hide everything else. All you can see are those 3 things. And here's the funny thing. Once we did this a couple of months ago, back in the spring, our members are 77% more likely to finish all 3 than back when they could see their 17 things. They wouldn't finish all 3. They'd finish 1 or 2. And that is the only, it's not like the tasks changed. The people didn't change. It was simply a thing of saying, oh, as I'm working, I look up, I go, it's those 3 things. Yeah, those are actually the right ones I should work on, and not the little stuff that's down the list where I can kind of cherry pick it when I'm procrastinating, as you said.
Right.
So
It's the
I think that's
overwhelm.
really important, is like prioritizing.
Yeah. Definitely everyone. I've used tools like Todoist and list building
Great
tools,
tool.
but great tool to a point, because as you say, I think there's a point where you just look at it. I use it now as a reminder of what are the kinds of things, like it's like a lockbox. What are the kinds of things I pull from that into my daily activity? So I use more of a productivity
I
planning
love
kind of
that you said.
tool.
We integrated with Todoist for that exact reason. We had a bunch of members who said, I store everything there so I don't have to remember it. And all I want to do is when I start my Suka session in the morning, be able to look at that and go, this one, this one, this one, and just pull them in as tasks for exactly what you said.
Yeah. Do you recommend other things? Like sometimes I'll do, like Sunday evening, I'll try and plan out what do I want to accomplish this week, and then pull
You and I are
tasks
the
from
same
that.
person. That's exactly what I do. It bugs my wife. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, just give me 5 minutes before I go to bed. it's better if I set my mind clear on the week rather than try and do it Monday morning. Totally with you on
Yeah.
that. What else? Come on, you got more. Come on, what else you got?
I got more. So do you already know what you're going to do on the day before you get there, or do you decide on the day what tasks you're going to complete that day?
Okay, I'll tell you, I have adopted, I mean, this is probably now by being around thousands of people who are trying to be productive and like nice people. I have cherry picked some things that people have told me they do that work, and I've made it my own. So this is going to sound a little nutso. Go with me on this one. Don't judge. The night before, what I'll do is two things now. And I find that any more than this is over planning. Any less than this, I go into the day not well planned. One, I choose my three things. Tomorrow, the things that are going to change my life or move Suka forward or help someone, these three, only three, right? Second thing is I look at my schedule and I set an alarm in my phone for 2 minutes before every meeting because I want to be on time for everything. I want to show everyone that respect. So I need 2 minutes, usually when it's like you're in the Zoom, whatever, to say, John, it's been great talking with you. You know what? I have an 11 a.m. and I need to wrap up now so I can be on time. And I'll tell you how that came to me. A good buddy of mine who was at CAA, you know, the big talent agency. So when I got back into the startup world, about a year later, he said, I see what you're doing. I want to do that. And I have an idea. So I helped him raise about $3 million for that company. And he said, listen, would you be open to maybe coming over for 3 months and just like shadowing me? Because he said he's like a Harvard JD. He worked at Morgan Stanley, huge company, worked at CAA, thousands of people. He's like, I've never actually run a 12-person company. So I was like, sure, I'll come over for a couple months and just like help you get your feet wet, show you how to, kind of run things that way. One of the things he wanted to do was because he's very familiar with talent, like he represented Spike Lee and like all these like big directors like that. So suddenly he's working with all these, what we would call influencers, right? Who are not always punctual. And he had this idea that we were going to do a 9 a.m. staff meeting. And I said, Billy, that's never going to happen. Like that's like herding cats. And he said, watch this. So he told everyone, hey, listen, Monday we're starting the company, blah, blah, blah. These 12 like influencer actor types have to be there at 9 a.m. We're going to set up the week schedule for content. And of course, at 9 a.m., most of them are not there, maybe 2 out of 12. The next morning at 8:58, he locked the door to the conference room and did not unlock it during the staff meeting. So anyone who showed up late was left out. Wednesday, every one of them was there before 9. He's like, they don't want to be left out. And I don't want anyone to feel disrespected around, well, we're just sitting here until 9:10 until someone gets here because they're more important than ever. We can't start without him. He's like, that's not the company I want to run. And I was like, you know what, dude? I learned something from you. That's a great tip. And he's like, it's just respecting other people's time.
I like that. I do like that. And that was me thinking that influencers were the people that get up before they've gone to bed so they can get a head start on the day. But it's good to know that they're fallible like the rest of us. But that maybe brings me to a question like, do you think ritual is important in having a good, productive day?
Yeah. And you can call it ritual. I call it habit. Obviously, clear, like Charles Duhigg, so many people have written really smart stuff about like when you just get in that habit. I do understand now things I didn't in my 20s around decision fatigue, around the power of habit, things like that. And I'll give you some concrete examples very concisely. When I'd first heard about, like Steve Jobs always wearing kind of the same outfit or Zuckerberg in the same outfit, this sort of thing, I was like, okay, whatever. And now I do understand, like you wake up in the morning with a certain number of units of brain energy. And you can expend some of those on like a slightly different breakfast every day or going to a different place every day or wearing different clothes every day or this sort of thing. And when you say, you know what, I need to conserve those, like I need to jealously guard those so I can spend them on that brainstorm with John around that new feature. You really do say, no, I'm gonna wear a t-shirt and jeans and I don't have to think about it, right? And it's the same thing with habit. When you say, you know what, I want to make sure I have the best practices for my brain, for my spirit, for my energy, you do adopt habits, like what you want to call them rituals. Habits, rituals sometimes is kind of charged around like, are we doing the goat sacrifice? We're not doing that today, right? We talked about this.
Later.
Later, exactly. As soon as the cameras are off. So the power of habit and You know what? If you want, let me expound on some people I saw very closely in film with that sense of like how they developed habits that served their brain, right? So, for example, when I was working with Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin around Independence Day, they had a habit of going to this villa in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Apparently, it's a beautiful white marble villa in the hills. And that is where they wrote. They had developed this thing where there was a room, I guess Dean said, like the light comes in over the pool in the morning. He's like, in that room, we go as a ritual every morning. Actually, he did use the word ritual. You're right. And he said, the light comes in such a way we don't think about our agents. We don't think about who's going to be cast or what the studio notes will be or what budget. We just think about what's the movie we would want to see. When they were going to have to write this, Roland told his assistant, hey, go rent the villa. We need to go do that thing. And she came back and she's like, it's rented. I mean, it was a vacation rental, right? Roland bought the villa that weekend. It was that important to him that they had these mornings in that room to write this. Bought a $5 million villa. Where the current renters went, God only knows, right? And when they came back 6 weeks later, they had written the film that became, at the time, the third highest grossing movie in film history. Because that was their habit. And I saw the same thing with when I was at DreamWorks, Alex Kurtzman and Bob Orsi. When they got in the crunch, and for those who don't know who they are, writers of Transformers 1 and 2, Star Trek 11, Mission Impossible 3, Zorro, tons of stuff, The Island, and great guys. So we were on the little Amblin area of the Universal Studios lot in Hollywood. Across the street on Lancashire, there is the Universal Hilton. I'm just going to say it is not a $5 million glamorous property, right? It's where you stay with your kids the night before you go on the rides. That's what it is, right? When they got in crunch time, they had their assistant rent a room there and they would go there and write every day. And I thought they're getting paid $1 to $2 million a script. Like they could easily afford going to Puerto Vallarta or going anywhere and writing.
Yeah.
And I realized for them, it was a ritual, or as you'd say, habit that went back to they had met in school. And I think that kind of hotel room or sitting on the edge of the bed with the laptop and Bob at the little desk on his laptop, it evoked dorm room. That was their ritual of, or these young scrappy writers, someday people are going to recognize us. We have to do a great job on this so we get hired. And that was a mindset they need to get back into through that habit, that ritual of, okay, well, now we're going to go finish Transformers 2. Admittedly getting paid more than when they were scrappy writers. So huge fan of understanding your own rituals and rights.
I love that. Great stories to illustrate that as well. Amazing. Let me ask you, I don't know if you've ever had any kind of connection or involvement with the personal development world at any point.
Do tell.
Hopefully you've been spared. It's not all bad, but one of the things, like when I first sort of got into personal development, when I was, I'm talking like early 2000s, probably really.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a whole new world. It was a big discovery for me. I discovered coaching and all this great, some things that have really transformed my life. But there's good and bad. But one of the things that I found at the time was being taught, and still come across it from time to time, is having to transform ourselves essentially into what often gets categorized as the sort of type A overachiever sort of person, always
Mm-hmm.
on the hustle, always going for it. You always have to be active, burning up all your hours and
Mm-hmm.
giving everything to the max all the time. And they got to a point where that was like, I'm not that. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't ever be that.
Mm-hmm.
But as I think about everything we're talking about here, everything that you're saying, which makes so much sense to me, I was thinking, how much time do we really get back when we have more focus, less distraction, that we can actually achieve more probably in far less time? Because I think many of us spend a lot of our days just trying to get stuff done, but not actually getting it done.
So I'm going to tell you another story. I know stories are fun ways to illustrate answers, right? So my company has a weird ass name, the Suka Company, right? People ask me about it all the time. I'll tell you where that came from. We had a working version of this, an early version with early beta testers and members using it. Laura, the wife I mentioned before, right? We had met in yoga. It's a part of our daily life. We have a daily yoga practice, and I love the spiritual and the physical part of that for an hour a day, just like being lost and that sort of thing. So when we got married, for our honeymoon, we went to Bali, which is a great place to go when you do yoga and you want to be with, your new wife. So on the way there, I was talking with Laura and I said, you know what? The next 10 days, no one from work is going to bug me to sign the purchase order for the staplers. Like they all are like, Puri's on vacation. He's on his honeymoon. Leave him alone, right? I said, maybe the universe will help me find a name for this because I keep coming up with awful names. Flow state app, distraction blocker app, whatever, right? And Laura said, I wish that for you. So when we got there, I said, what would help my unconscious mind is if I seeded it today, do you mind if I have like 2 or 3 quick Zooms, like 10 minutes with current members and just ask them, what's your favorite part? And maybe over 10 days, something bubbles up that's really cool. Like the way Amazon is not called like bookstore online, like Nike is like a cool word when you think about victory and, the goddess of victory. And it's not called shoe place, Laura's like, I'm going to the pool. Enjoy your Zooms. I'll see you at dinner, right? So 3 people said, I'll spend 10 minutes with you. And I asked that simple question. Hey, what's your favorite feature? Is it, the music we have, the timers, the task list thing we talked about, the smart assistant, the blockers for your phone, all that. And the third guy, we were going to hang up and being respectful, I was like, you know what, John, it's been 8 minutes. I want to say thank you. I want to be respectful of your time and let you go. I really appreciate what you told me. And the guy cut me off. He said, Steven, you asked the wrong questions. And I'm like, okay, guy, I don't know that well.
Direct, yes.
Right. Tell me. I'll take the bait. What's the right question? He said, you should have asked me why I pay you. I was like, dude, we charge like $10 a month. It's like 30 cents a day. I didn't think that's a big deal. Like, I don't collect a paycheck for this. I do it because I think Tony and I do it for free because we love it. Okay, great. Why do you pay me? He said, the past year or so, I find I have 2 kinds of days. At 3:00, I'm playing with my kids. They're currently 2 and 4. Or at 6:00, I'm down on myself and I'm like, I didn't get the big thing done. I was busy all day. I'll get up early tomorrow and try to finish up. He goes, I found the difference is did I hit play in your app in the morning? So I pay you because my kids are not going to be 2 and 4 forever. Okay. You're right. I asked the wrong questions. You won that round, right? So I go to dinner with Laura. I was like, I spoke to this dude who's like more articulate about what I'm doing than I am. I told her this. She's like, that's really good. So we're going to sleep. The first night is on your honeymoon in our stupid little spa robes, brushing our little teeth. And Laura looks at me. She goes, you wanted the universe to speak to you. It did through that guy. So he said to you, in yoga, we hear all these like terms in Sanskrit, like your karma and your prana life force and your dharma, your duty. She's like, he described you sukha. He wants to be in control of his life. He wants to feel like he is in his lane, doing what he's meant to do. And he's doing it by being in control of it. So at 3:00, he's with his kids and he got everything done. He did it well, as opposed to letting it sprawl. And he recognizes there's that choice for him and you help him on the path. You should name your company after what he said, which is he wants to feel that self-fulfillment, that happiness, that in control. She's like, call it the Sukha Company. I'm going to bed. And I looked it up. It was available for $14, my friend. And I bought the domain that day.
Very, very nice too. And a great story.
That's what I think it is, though. It's like you said, it is saying, what do I want? At 3:00, I want to feel on top of the world. I want to go, I did the 3 big things and then choose what you do with the other 3 hours. Not at 6:00, be like, oh, I'll finish after work, or I'll get up early tomorrow and try and finish today's work tomorrow before I start tomorrow's work, which is the lie you tell yourself every single day. And it's just like dominoes, you keep sliding. And that's ultimately what I want for people is like, do the thing, man. Like, do not die with the great thing you have inside you. Whether you're a speaker, whether you are a writer, whether you are a designer, whether you're an engineer, whatever it is, like, don't be the guy or girl sitting on the sofa at 80 that's like, oh, I could have been a great speaker. I could have opened that restaurant. I had that idea for a company. I could have written that book. Like, it feels miserable to be that way. Even if you fail, hey, man, I wrote the book. Maybe it was not a bestseller, but I got it out there. I left it on the field. I'm not going to die with that inside me. I don't want that for anyone.
Yeah, great, another great illustration. And I love how you cleverly also weaved into there some nice gentle reminders to be respectful to your time as well. So very nice. With that in my mind, there is one thing I feel like we must get to before we start to wrap things up,
Is this
which
about
is
Die Hard? Everyone asks me about Die Hard. Okay, go for it.
that would have to be a bonus, I think. But flow state, we haven't touched that much on it, and I know it's something that you do
You know I
talk
love it.
about. It's related
You
to
know I
what you
love
do. So, what's your perspective on, first of all, what that is and
it. Okay.
how we can achieve that?
I know that there are members of your audience playing at home or in the car that are like flow masters, like, I have my flow state practice. I get it. And there are others that are like, I know it's a thing. I've heard about it. What exactly is the deal? So let me just begin by setting the table and then let me expound upon that, right? So a Hungarian-American psychologist, this guy, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, he had a thesis. He's like, high performers in these various disciplines, athletes and artists and inventors and scientists, they seem to go in these concentrated states where they do the thing that made them famous or that changes the world. And they describe it in very similar ways. What is up with that? So, like Prometheus, he wanted to go up to Mount Olympus, steal a little fire, bring it down to the rest of us. So when he did his research, he wrote a book called Flow. From whence we get the term flow state. I love what he said. He said, I chose this word because it was the most beautiful metaphor for what I found, which is we are all on the river paddling ourselves forward. But if you align your boat with the current, it carries you, it magnifies your effort. You go further and faster. And that's what these people have learned how to do. So he wrote in this book, here are the characteristics of it. You lose track of time. You're not staring at the clock. You often, forget to, drink water or go to the bathroom or just do distracting things. You block distractions. You don't get a sense of like, oh, I could be in Facebook right now, or I could be scrolling LinkedIn, right? You do concentrated work, your best work, in a shorter period of time. And you feel more energy at the end. You feel a joyful sort of experience rather than a depletion. And he said, so there are some conditions precedent that these high performers use to kind of get into the state and stay there. He said, I noticed they all think what they're doing is meaningful. They use different terms for what they're doing. Like there's, the famous basketball player, Michael Jordan. He had that quote about, when I'm in the zone, it's just me and the ball. All the distractions fall away. I'm not watching the stands. I'm not watching the scoreboard. In those moments when he's doing the things that, 30 years later are still on highlight reels, he realizes all that is really important is that he controls the ball to go where it needs to go. And everything falls away. It's very much like, he cites that Picasso quote, which I always mangle, about, I was up all night. I think I didn't go to the bathroom. I forgot to have dinner. But hey, Guernica. And that sense, which I think actually took like 14 nights of craziness. But I mean, just imagine creating a canvas that size to capture the horrors of war. It's amazing. And Mihai said, in addition to believing it's meaningful, like you're not going to get into flow stapling papers or filing your TPS reports, right? But maybe you're writing a great speech or something where you go, this is going to affect the 3,000 people in this audience in a meaningful way, right? If you believe it's meaningful, you have skills that apply. It's not Michael Jordan painting, right? And you're challenged. Like it is something where you're not just doing it as a rote exercise, but you're going like, I want to move forward my abilities here. And he said, it also seems like it's great to have immediate feedback, to have some sense of you can see the effect of your action as opposed to you're just pouring energy into a black hole and you don't know if it's good or bad and who knows, right? So it is, whether you're, reading back the speech you're writing, you're saying it out loud, you're hearing it in the room. When we were building Suka, we built a live graph for you so you could see when you were focused and when you picked up your phone, you get an instant sense of like, how am I doing? Like that kind of feedback loop he thought was very important. So the reason I'm so passionate about this is it is a great tool to use, your flow state, to do your best work in less time. And it's much easier to block out things like, oh, well, I could be scrolling through my threads or my reels or my TikTok, shorts or whatever.
Yeah. I think it also, one of the things that was coming up whilst you were speaking there was that is a great reminder to some sense as well, especially for people who are trying in that stage where it's trying to make it. If you're in that sort of I'm trying to make it stage, you're probably trying to do everything all at once, and you're never going to get into flow that way. And so this whole thing of trying to do less and achieve more, go further with doing less, is maybe counterintuitive because you just kind of think you have to do as much as possible, but it's a better way to get into the flow and to see progress. And I
At
find
first,
myself,
it seems counterintuitive. You're right.
yeah,
And then once you've done it, you're like, I actually prioritized and I did the things that move the needle.
yeah. So I like this whole perspective on
Oh, good. Thank you.
flow from it. And no, I find it very helpful. It's always good to be reminded of these things as well. And I think what I'm taking away mostly from our conversation is that we don't have to completely transform ourselves. Sometimes we just need the gentle nudges, a bit of intentionality, a removal, a reduction of distraction, and clarity about what we're setting out to achieve, and keeping it simple as best as possible. Those are, I think, some of the biggest takeaways I'm having from our conversation today. Is there anything else either from that or that you would want to add that you think is particularly important for people to understand about productivity and remote work?
I would love to simply hang a lantern on that idea you brought up, which is in the morning, be very clear about your intention before you dive into reading the news or checking your emails or starting to do whatever. Take 1 minute, breathe deeply, and say, what is the thing today that'll move my life forward? And don't start until you're clear on that.
Awesome. For those who are thinking, I like the sound of this Suka thing, I want to check out this app, and all, what's the best way to get in contact with you or to get access to the app and the
Two
community?
things, super simple. If there is anything that I've said that someone has a question about, it doesn't have to do with me or my app. It could be about who's Cal Newport, who's the Hungarian dude, whatever, right? My email address is very public. It is Steven with a V at the Suka, which is TheSukha.co for company, the Suka company. You're welcome to email me and say, hey man, can you send me a link? Like, is there a blog post I can read about Cal Newport, about flow states, whatever? I will send it to you. I will not send a 19-paragraph summary of my life because you don't want to read it. I don't have time to write it, right? But I do get back to all my emails in 24 hours if I'm not sick or traveling. So that is an open invite. Anyone who wants to learn more, I will help. If someone wants to experiment with flow states, we made a flow state app. It is free for 7 days. You can use it 168 hours a week for free, no credit card. And if you love it, sign up. Yeah, help us pay the server bills. It's $10 a month. And it's super simple. And it's at TheSukha, TheSukha.co. Try it out and do something great. Like the best thing that would come out of this for me is that someone goes, you know what? I actually wrote this amazing speech. I delivered it using your app. You know, I did something to move the world because you all helped me to focus in a world that is so distracting.
Yeah. I'd say it's a small investment for a potentially enormous ROI. Yeah, definitely go and check out the Suka app and try it out. Try it. Your flow states. Let's get everybody
kind of magical
moving forward. Yeah, definitely. This has been a really great, a valuable converson. I think anyone
I'm glad. I hoped it would be.
For me alone, like, even if no one else listens to this, you've helped me, Steve.
Okay, we'll put one in the win column.
So we're all good there. But thank you for coming and sharing all of this. I love what you're doing with productivity. What you shared today has been so helpful, and long may it continue. And let's wish you every success with your upcoming child. Have you been thinking of names already?
We have names. Actually, we've already named our son and our daughter, hopefully in 2 years. Again,
Fantastic.
#planners. Watch out.
You are well prepared. Well, I hope everything goes wonderfully well and that you'll be very soon enjoying bouncing your baby boy on your knee. And I'll look forward to hopefully connecting with you again in the future as well. But thank you for coming and speaking.
That would be awesome. And thank you to everyone who listened.
We appreciate you, Stephen. Thank you. Most of us are not lazy or unmotivated. We're overwhelmed, distracted, and trying to think clearly inside systems that are designed to pull us apart. Now, what Stephen shared in this episode is a reminder that focus is not about discipline or guilt. It's about intention, environment, and choosing what actually matters before the world chooses for you. When people learn to protect their attention, they do better work, feel calmer, and stop ending their days wondering where the time went. And that shift alone can change a career and a life. If this conversation helped you think differently, make sure you're subscribed and leave a review so I know what's resonating. You can also check out Stephen's work at thesuka.co, that's TheSukha.co, thesuka.co, and try the app for yourself. And if you want support finding clarity, focus, and direction in your own work, then you know where to find me. All the details are in the show notes for you as well. Hope you'll join me for the next episode where I'm going to be going through the process that I work with my private clients on to help them get unstuck or really moving, getting more bookings, rebookings, and growing their own professional speaking businesses. I hope you won't miss that.